Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. It's been a wonderful conference so far. I'm going to give you today a quick whirlwind tour of how to make interactive 360 X-ray spinners, kind of like the one you see here, and hopefully inspire you all to start making them too, advocating for the funding to get digital radiography in your institutions. And then we can all share them, artifacts from all of our different walks of life, in a huge database of searchable spinners so that you can find objects just like the one that you're studying and check the spinner and compare it with yours. And you could search by the foundry or the time period or the artist or whatever. Of course, that doesn't exist, but if we start making them, then there'll be incentive to do it, and it'll be great. Okay, so here is our basic setup now at the Getty. We have an X-ray tube on a gantry. We have a computer-controlled turntable, and we have a digital detector, direct digital detector. And I'm gonna just walk you through it with some time lapse. The first step, unsurprisingly, is just to set up your object on a digital turntable. And we normally set up on a 6-inch stack of high-density ethafoam discs. Then we bring the detector into position on this easel. We have a good locking wheels on the easel that lock the wheel's spin and also the rotation of the wheel assembly. So the easel is going to stay really, really still and not move at all. And that's very important for registering the images that we'll be producing. Then you play around a bit. You bring the detector as close as possible to the object to maximize the sharpness. You can adjust the center of rotation of the object if that helps you to bring the detector closer. And then you confirm that the object can do a full turn without hitting the detector or the easel on the way. So quick shout out about the easel. Our mechanical genius and mountain maker, BJ Farrar, designed the easel using Rhino software by just pulling part descriptions down from McMaster Carr's website. Designed it, built it for about $3,000 in parts. There are no motors, there are no computers, and there are no problems. It just works, and from the beginning, it's never broken down. And we're happy to share parts lists and more diagrams if that would be helpful to anyone. Then you bring the tube into position, you determine the distance you're going to work from and record that, the height of the tube, normally not too far off of normal to the detector in the center position, but you can adjust it a little bit to get the perspective that's helpful for that object. Then this is what our control panel setup looks like just outside the X-ray room. At the top left is the legacy control panel. I feel like I'm in a U-boat in World War II or something, but you can control the movement of the all the gantry stuff from outside. Top right is the live view of the room, and our security department generously hooked up a security camera for us in there, which is very helpful. Bottom left monitor is the one we're going to use to control the turntable. And then the bottom right monitor is for X-ray acquisition, and then later on for visible image acquisition. So in this position, then we can do a 360 rotation watching in real time on the detector, which is a nice feature. And you can make sure that the object isn't swinging out of the field of view so that it's nicely centered left to right in this case. And it's at this point you kind of really decide on how many different detector positions you're going to use, because obviously the whole thing doesn't fit on one frame. So you're going to have to move the detector into different positions to get all of the sculpture, and you decide where you want to do it. We usually, with our DR plate, we use heavy filtration. So we're doing like 4 millimeters of copper on it and using high voltages. These detectors are super sensitive and have a really big dynamic range. Using high kV really allows you to get through really heavy parts when the sculpture is swinging and you're looking straight through the arm and you got like inches and inches of bronze, but also not lose little fingertips and things. So you can do all of that if you run hot, then the problem is that sometimes you can lose subtle texture because your contrast is going so far down. But the image enhancement features that I'll show you later are pretty incredible, and you can compensate for a lot of that. Then you decide what position you want to start in. It's not that important, you can change that later, but what you really want to do is mark the starting position of the turntable somehow. So you want to be able to get back to it in case anything goes wrong, which it used to, but now it doesn't anymore, since we got a system. Then set your exposure, check on some test shots to see if you're getting enough penetration and all of that. Nice thing about the digital systems is, test shots take 2 seconds and they're really easy to interrogate. And so you can do a bunch of them and get a good exposure very, very quickly. And then you also decide on how many frames you're gonna acquire. So this is something different about digital radiography. You can optimize the exposure for an individual image, but denser, low exposure areas in particular, they may seem a little grainy or noisy. So the solution in digital radiography is to shoot the same frame more than once and average the frames together. So you can imagine having a camera that is only set to ISO 4000 or something, and the images are a little noisy. But if you shoot exactly the same picture 2, 4, 6, 8, 16 times, and then average them together, the noise goes away and it looks like you shot it at ISO 100. So you can try different frames, numbers of frames, decide on exactly what your acquisition time and all of that is. So then you're going to just determine where you want the detector to be, the highest and the lowest positions. We have little ruler gauges on the side of the gantry so that we can move it up and down in exactly parallel. Then you just do some quick calculations and you say, okay, position 1 is going to be at this mark 2, 3, 4. In this case, it's 4 frames to get it perfectly. Okay, so then you set up what's called RoboTask software. So this is a third piece of software. There's the turntable, the X-ray, and then RoboTask. RoboTask is a mouse clicker program, and you just tell it that you want it to do 6 things 72 times. And you just program it in, it's super easy. Step one, move the cursor to the button that says acquire X-ray image, and that's in the screen on the right. Step 2, left click on that button. Step 3, wait a certain amount of time for the acquisition to happen. You adjust that for each sequence that you're gonna do. And then when that's done, move the cursor to the turntable advance button position. And then step 5 is click on that. Step 6 is pause a second and then repeat 72 times. Super easy to do, and it just automates the whole process. And then once you hit that RoboTask play button, you just sit back and you just watch it rotate, acquire, rotate, acquire. This is sped up, but it's still pretty fast. Pretty fast. In this case, say we're doing like a 2-second exposure, 8 frames per image, and 72 shots. We do it every 5 degrees usually. That takes maybe 25 minutes to run. You can adjust that, that varies depending on what your settings are. We've done up to 8 frames in a single day for a sculpture that was over 1 meter high and over half a meter wide. Anyway, okay, so after the first rotation completes, then you just slide the easel down to position 2, and then you hit RoboTask, it takes 30 seconds, hit RoboTask play again, and then, go get a cup of coffee, check your emails, do whatever you gotta do. And then move it to the third position, do it and repeat, more coffee. You can get highly caffeinated if you're not careful. And again, the bar moves perfectly parallel. You really check the measurement positions on both sides because that's super important later on. And then you do the last one, rotate, etc. Okay. So once the last sequence is done, it's time to switch over to doing visible light photography. You can move the detector easel back, bring in a white backdrop, can move the X-ray tube out of the way and position a camera so that the sensor of the camera is in the same position as the tube source. And I'm careful about that. I do it as carefully as I can, but I'm not compulsive about it. I've also heard that it might be better to place the optical center of the lens in the tube source position, and if anybody has thoughts on that, I'd love to hear them. And then set up the photo lights. We found in general that bouncing the light off the walls for an overall soft light is pretty consistently a nice way to go. We connect the camera through a long USB cable to the same computer that we were using for X-ray control and the turntable. And then on the right-hand screen, we just switch over from the X-ray control software to our image acquisition software, adjust the focus and the exposure and everything, and then use RoboTask again to do the same thing, except this time it goes to the Acquire Image button on the right, and it does the same 72 positions, exactly the same 72 positions every time. And then that usually takes 5 minutes or something to run through the visible light shots. And then you're done. So then you close up shop and you put everything away. And so for this sculpture, we started around 9 a.m. to move the sculpture and the equipment into the room. We had all 288 radiographs done before lunch, comfortably. We did the photos right after lunch, and that left enough time in the afternoon to do all the compositing of all of them in one day. And I'll go into the compositing now. So the X-rays look like this when you get them. That's the raw X-ray. There's also this filter I was talking about, this image enhancement filter, that's kind of amazing, and it applies this localized contrast enhancement algorithm over the whole thing, brings out quite a lot of detail in the images. So we're gonna work with the raw X-rays and the enhanced X-rays, because we wanna have both, and you can ask me about that later if you want, why we have both. So at this point then you do some image exporting and transforming, and you end up basically with 9 folders of images, 1 of the visible, 4 for each of the enhanced X-ray vision, views, and 4 for each of the regular raw X-ray views. And we're gonna bring those into Adobe After Effects, which is a movie software that will make the compositing really simple. So in this, we're gonna start by just importing that sequence of visible light shots, 72 frames. It's gonna treat it as a movie clip, okay? And then we're gonna create what's called a composition to hold it. And we'll make it a little bit bigger so that we have some room to play around. Okay, then we're gonna bring in each one of the filtered X-ray image sets, one by one, and we'll add them to the composition too. So it's just a click and add, click on one, add them in, and then we'll go through and we'll add all 4 of those. And then we're gonna bring those 4 image sets into our composition. So there they are. Just like Photoshop, everything on the lower left here you see is in layers, and we can click off the visible so we're not seeing it. We can click off the lower 2 image sets, and we'll just be looking at 2 of them, the top and the upper middle. And these are each movie clips, remember, so all 72 are there, but we can just do a little adjustment to them. And then just like in Photoshop, you can make the upper one 50% opacity, and then you can zoom in and look in the area where they overlap and do a little just click and drag to orient them and get them lined up. And you can do that, quite precisely. They kind of, when they click in place, it. It's like bang, they're super sharp. And that's it. So then those are aligned, and because they move perfectly parallel, you just do 1 point and they're aligned. So then we switch back to 100% opacity. It looks good, but there's a little bit of a line at the bottom, at the intersection or where the interface. So you can just select a region and feather the bottom edge. And that is just like a Photoshop thing also, just feather the bottom edge, and then the blending is very nice. And then you just do the same thing for the lower 2 frames. It's really quick. These are not sped up. This is just how long it takes to do it. So then you've got the first frame of all 4 shots aligned. Boom, 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 boom. What's great is now you've got all of the other 72 aligned also. It's a movie and they're all aligned. So that makes it really easy. You only do it once. Then you can bring the visible light shot back in, turn the opacity of that to 50%, and roughly position and scale it. The controls are very nice. You can do the scaling by entering a number and control it down to a 100% if you want to get the scaling just right. And same thing. In this case, there may be a little rotation because the camera might not have been perfectly vertical. So you can rotate, and you can also rotate to the 100th of a degree, so you can get it nicely lined up. And again, the beauty of it is that you've got all 72 of them aligned right away. So you only have to do that once. Then the composition's a little bit bigger than you need, so you can just crop it down to what you want, and you've got what you want. All right, so then with the X-rays visible, you can render that sequence, which is movie speak for outputting each one of the frames as a JPEG. And you choose JPEG sequence, and you choose the format you want, and then if you can find where you want to save it to, which, there it is, and then save, and then render, boom, and then bump, 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 72 JPEGs saved, composited. Whole thing takes about a minute. And then you can turn on the visible image again, render that sequence in exactly the same way, bump, 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 bump. So that's 72 visible shots that are perfectly aligned with the radiographs. Same pixel dimensions and everything. And then here, as if that wasn't magic, this is totally magic. You have the enhanced X-rays here, right? That you've done all that work. Now you have the raw X-rays that you still want to do. All you have to do is replace the footage to the different source. So you just go, instead of using those enhanced X-ray images, use the raw ones instead. So you just select that, click, and then you see the upper one has just changed into the raw X-ray version. It's exactly the same crop, it has the same feathering, it has the same position and rotation, everything's the same. You just do that 4 times, and then you have all 288 of those images aligned, etc. And you can render those, and you're done. So then you've got 3 sets, and you're ready to go. So then the hardest part actually is, what do you do with those, and how do you make them visible to yourself and to other people? So turns out, yeah, that is the hardest part. The digital department at the Getty has not been able to figure out how to work with these very well. So we've been working with Robert Erdman at the University of Amsterdam to make a web-based interactive viewer. And that allows you to make a zoomable, swipeable, multi-layered HTML package that'll run on any browser. So we're hosting the links to those on our Getty website. And there's a QR code. It'll be up for a little while, so you can check that out. And on those, you can access about 10 of these image sets right now. There's 6 more going up today, and then we'll do another maybe 20, hopefully pretty soon. We're hoping to build them up. And on the websites, yes, we have the links to the spinners you can upload so far. You can scroll through and choose the one that you want to look at. Right now, we have them as parallel views, and you can zoom in, and so this is the interactive experience. At the bottom, there's a little scroll bar to swipe to spin them. You can switch the view for each side to the raw and the enhanced or the visible or whatever. You can zoom in, you can pan around, you can zoom in even further. So in this case, like the end of that big iron bar, you can really see like the way it's snapped off, broken off there at the bottom. You can double click on the bar to resize it, or go to full screen and then back. And then there's a little image thing that gives you the controls for, doing it on your phone, doing it with a touchpad, doing it with a mouse. So that's it. I hope you all are inspired. Get a DR system. I will come and help you set it up, and you could come visit me and we could set it up together. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate my colleagues at the Getty who helped do this with me. Jane and Madeline and Julie have all been acquiring these with me, and that helps so much to get feedback on how it's going. And Astrid Larson at the Getty is the one who set up our webpage and set up all the links and has made that work. So thank you very much.